Ahoy, ladies and gentlemen, how are you doing? Welcome to the BBC Spews Live. It's been a while, hasn't it? I'm higher than normal. This is weird. I guess I swapped chairs and this one seems to be a lot higher than the last one. Oh well, at least it doesn't look like I'm wearing a crown anymore. And I'll have to have slightly shitty posture for the duration. How's everyone doing? Who am I kidding? I've always got shitty posture. I walk like I'm looking for pound coins. Who's your money on? Clinton. Yeah, it's been a mad time, hasn't it? Me and my brother were drinking in Ventura when Trumpy took one in the lug. And I just checked my phone. Someone sent me a WhatsApp message, said, oh, they just shot Trumpy. And I was like, they just shot the Orange Oracle. And he was like, no. I went, yeah, have. And then only when I looked into it. So it was kind of mad getting that on a text because I instantly thought they'd actually killed him. I thought there's no way a bloke his age survives getting slotted. Is there? No way. And then I find out they just clipped his lug by sheer miracle. Well, two things. A sheer miracle and the fact that the bloke who shot him clearly couldn't hit a cow's ass with a shovel, because that is unbelievable, that. 150. It wasn't even 150 meters, was it? It was 150 yards. I could have shot his cock off with an iron sight from that distance. Looking at the, listening to the sound of the shots, I think what saved him, right, was A, he couldn't shoot for toffee, and B, he must have had it set to the 3-round burst setting, because on them ARs, some of them have a 3-round burst setting. And it sounded like the first one, because he moved his head slightly, the first one clipped his lug. And then if you know anything about shooting, the reason soldiers get trained to shoot center mass is because they naturally travel upwards. So if you just put it right in the middle of his bird's nest there, and you do a 3-round burst, it's going to hit him in the chest, the neck, and the face, and then he's dead. So I think it sounded like he had it on a 3-round burst, and it just went bap, bap, bap over his head. And that's what hit the crowd. And then he did another one. And at this point, he's going to be quite panicked. He's going to have to readjust his aim. And then he's gone bap, bap, bap. And I think it sounded like he got 2 3-round bursts into the crowd then. And then the police snipers shot him. But yeah, he proper, the bloke as well, didn't he? He looked like Gollum with a wig on. Like Gollum if he was into heavy metal. It was a mad state of affairs, but it was good for a variety of reasons, wasn't it? Because it proved me right on a dozen different points. Not least of which would be when I was having a chat with that van man Talks, and I was telling him, like, the old left and the old right doesn't exist anymore. Like, the psychopaths that rule the world from the shadows, and they've been doing it since the mid to late 90s, was they've got rid of the old left and right paradigm. It doesn't exist anymore. And you can see this because people like me were certainly 10 years ago, I would, well, like I said, I found a blog I wrote 10 years ago. It's cringe. I'm not even going to link it because it's so cringe. If you can find it, well done. I'm sure if you try hard, you'll be able to find it on Google. You all know my name. But it was like 7 reasons you should vote for Bernie Sanders. And this is when I very first came to America, found out they didn't have any healthcare, and was like, oh my God, that's shocking. 10 years later, what a change 10 years of educating yourself makes. But the point I'm getting at is the old left-right paradigm is gone. And now you've basically got like what looks to be about 40, 50% of the people are clever enough to be paying attention. But unfortunately, still the vast majority are the sheeple who just get controlled by the mainstream media in Silicon Valley. It's been proved in numerous ways. But, I mean, certainly, Labour have come in, and it's just like there's more of the same, isn't it? All the extreme, the proper old school lefties are mega pissed off because they're not doing anything extreme left, apparently. All the far left are mega pissed off. And all the people who are now quite popular talking heads. Sargon's gone way to the right, hasn't he? Way from, like, I've followed him for about 10 years. Russell Brand was like a communist. Everyone's tuning into him now. Jimmy Dore was far left and on the Young Turks for about 4 years or something. And I listened to him in the car last week, and I actually liked. I reckon I agreed with 60% of what he said. I was like, the old left-right paradigm's gone, and it's been completely consumed by this fucking totalitarian ideology where you're just getting spat at by lunatics, and they're all peeing in the same pot. You know, they like to say back home, they're just the same two cheeks of the same ass. They're all pissing in the same pot, and it's just all about control and power and authoritarianism and telling you what you can and can't say and what speech you have to use. And they're going to have digital currency soon. And all the idiots, the old left who are getting pissed off, global managerialism basically for everyone. The old left who are getting pissed off, the ones who are just all about working class people, are annoyed because they know it's just going to lead to control of poor people. You're basically going to be serfs. They're doing all this stuff like, oh, you're going to have rights, but they're going to monitor every cent you get with all these crypto global digital currencies they're bringing in. And again, they've told us, haven't they? They told us on when Majid Nawaz was on Joe Rogan's show, and he said, "Oh, I'll bring the receipts, Joe," and he pulled out his speech by Rishi Sunak, no less, you know, the Prime Minister, then the Chancellor, saying, oh, it's going to be mint. It's going to be mint, this global digital currency, be hoofing. If you talk to someone we don't like, we'll tell you won't be able to buy a train ticket. If you go somewhere we don't like, we won't be able to get there. You won't be able to buy petrol for your car, if there's still petrol. All the electric cars will be switch off when we press a button. They can stop you going where you want, saying what you want, and eating what you want. And I keep telling you lot, it's going to be Orwell and Huxley, an unholy mishmash between the two. Because it's not going to be awful. So I keep telling everyone, it's not going to be absolutely awful. You're not going to starve, but you're going to be controlled all the time. And free people like me, my philosophy hasn't really changed that much. I'm not having it. Like I've told you, it's about the principle. When you stand on principle, you won't have it. I'd rather be uncomfortable than controlled. And like Edgar Friendly on Demolition Man, that amazing, fantastic, hilarious speech. It's like, I want to smoke a Cuban cigar and I want to smear green jelly on my skin and run down the street naked. Why? Just because I want to, because I can. It's important. And I think this is where the old left and the right are meeting now, because they're starting to realize that it's just authoritarianism, comfortable authoritarianism. You won't starve. You'll have a tiny little flat like Neo on the Matrix, exactly like that. So not uncomfortable. You'll be hot in the winter and cool in the summer, and you'll have a nice soft bed, and you'll have entertainment, and you'll have your fucking, I forget the name of it. I've been away a few weeks. What was my invention that I was going to change the world with and make a mint? The Gobbletron 3000. There we go. You'll have your Gobbletron 3000 if you're a bloke, and you'll have your Clam Smasher 2000 if you're a woman. Yeah, it'll be like a chainsaw with a, rampant rabbit on the end. And you'll be there with your VR headset on, drilling yourself senseless with your Clam Smasher 2000, and you think you're happy, but you won't be. You won't be. There we go. That's what I'm talking about, rather than being a serf. Crying as a natural emotional response could occur even in individuals who follow Stoic principles. Stoicism teaches its adherents to accept these emotional reactions as part of being human. Yeah, that's something I've struggled with, because I think ultimately there's no supreme arbiter of, I think, what you call Stoicism. I agree with that, right? A large element I've talked about of me not wanting children is weakness, because I was sort of indoctrinated by my dad to be such a sort of tough guy, a manly man, that I worry that having a child and have something happen to them seeing them starve to death would unman me. So it's one of the reasons why I've always avoided them. And as I've said, I understand that is a weakness, isn't it? It's a weakness when you start acting like it's a weakness to admit you never get afraid or to never show any emotion. But I do think a large aspect of it as well is like it's literally been sucked out of me. Like I'm not an emotional person. I don't often feel like actually being upset. It's not like an act. I think 10% of it is, you know, getting indoctrinated by my tough northern, stereotypically manly family. But a lot of it just is my natural personality, right? I'm not an emotional person. I don't not cry because I'm trying to be stoic. At least 98% of the time. But yeah, I suppose that's right. Or to put it in a more simplistic way, right? Like Ned Stark said, the only time you can really be brave is when you're afraid. You're just one of these badass, just one of these badass people who doesn't feel fear. You're not really being that brave, are you? Because you just don't feel it. Yeah, you know what? This is why I need to quit my job and start working from home full time. I need to be an inventor. I reckon if I sold both of those products, I'd have the market stitched up right. I've got women and men, and as we all know, there's only two genders. I'd have the market stitched up there. Between the Gobbletron and the Clam Smasher, I'd be a fucking rich man, me. But anyway, it's a mad time to be alive. So there's loads of stuff to talk about. So I thought the best thing I'd do is just throw my Twitter up, because while I'm out the house, if I can't really spend any time perusing the news, I just retweet stuff from Twitter that I think would be a good one to talk about. So I'll just roll through my Twitter feed for half an hour today, I think. There's some good stuff on here. This one made me laugh straight away, right? How funny would it be if this young French bloke just stuck the crust on on the geezer that got in his face? That's reminded me of something that'll make you laugh as well. When I was in the booze with my sister-in-law, and I was saying, we've got more slang words in the UK. I think if you talk to an American for any period of time, because we were on the piss together, me, my brother, my two nephews, and my sister-in-law for about 9-10 days there. And she said, "What do you mean by that? They're just use the same words." And I was like, no, they're totally, we've got way more like similes and euphemisms and synonyms and stuff. And I said, even something daft like head, like we've got loads of words for the head, haven't we? And she was like, what, like noggin? And I was like, yeah, that's one. I was like, the Americans have only got like 3 or 4. And she's like, well, so have we. And I went, no. And I just started reeling them off, sat in the booth, and I was like, loaf, crust, bonds, cheese box, Swede, napper. She was like, I haven't heard of half of them. You're just weird. And I have a strangely photographic memory of stupid fucking comical terms. I was like, I think it was 20 years reading the Viz, like ever since I've read the Viz since I was 12, and I think I've just remembered them all with an autistic degree. Anyway, let me see if I can get this up a bit bigger. Twitter's a bit diggy like this, isn't it, when you want to show a video? As if I play with my window. It's a bit shit. No, that's dog shit as well. Fuck me. Kind of like, if I full screen, it'll definitely make my computer go weird. Let's have a look. Okay, that's not terrible. Right, let's try that. So this is the tradition of when you've got the you know, of the father of the house and all that shit. In France, it's tradition for the youngest member of the house to shake the hands of all the new parliamentarians, basically. And obviously they all ignore him, but watch what the Algerian bloke does. Shake around. That was quite funny. I'll give him that one. So that's pretty funny, if only because of the sinister music change. But seriously, at that point, right, I think he'd be within his rights to stick the loaf on him. You don't let anyone, if someone's going to come up that close to you, I always just think they're just going to go bush and give me a cheeky right hook on the chin. And then next thing, give me a good shoeing. That's what I was always expecting. If someone gets up to me like at a pub in Middlesbrough, if a bloke gets up that close to you, you are basically morally obligated to flatten his nose with your forehead. So that would have been hilarious if the youngest kid in the house stuck the loaf on the Algerian fella, a Glaswegian kiss. Is that right? Has Biden actually formally dropped out now? Let's have a look. Yeah, there you go. He's officially out. So, even that makes us look good, doesn't it? Even that proves us right. So I'm saying the world's gone mad. And if you pay attention, you get gaslit. Every one of us who consumes alternative media, every single one of us, you could be of the left, like I said, now that those words are starting to mean increasingly less. Joe Rogan, Jimmy Dore, Russell Brand, all definitely none of them would be called conservative people. They spent at least the last 18 months saying Joe Biden is not even a shadow of the man he was a mere 4 years ago. Like 4 years ago, he could speak better than he can now. And we've spent the last 2 years, even like Indian comics. Like, have you seen the Indian comic duo? We're always doing Biden Harris, and he was falling asleep every 2 minutes. You had like Indian comedians and all the rest of the world saying Joe Biden is not fit to run for office. And they spent the whole time saying, oh, yeah, you're all far-right fanatics. You're all conspiracy theorists. They're all deep fake videos. And Joe Scarborough went on the telly with a straight face and said, oh, yeah, this is 6 weeks before he gets shot, before Trump got shot, and said, oh, yeah, Joe Biden is the sharpest and the cleverest I've ever seen him. So even this makes us look good. Like, they're insane, these globalist psychopaths. It's a crazy time to be alive. He was thick, as I keep saying, he was thick 40 years ago, but now he's just senile. What's that mean? But Anthony, hey boo, I've opened an account and can't find your account. Account on what? I don't think. I don't know what you're on about there. Subscribe star or something. Don't really know what you're talking about. If you want to join the channel on YouTube, you've already done that anyway. On Twitter. All right, there you go. Hang on, I'll get that for you. Where is it? For fuck's sake. You can't just press anything once, can you? It's just at Angry Bootneck. Apparently. There we are. And there's a link to it. Twitter. There you go. Oh, yeah, here we go. So, sorry, back to what we were talking about. I had this out at length with my mother-in-law, right? Because this is fantastic, right? Again, you probably already know this, you lot, so it'll be a little bit boring talking about it. But essentially, the reason Trump won in 2016 was entirely the fault of the Democrat Party. And because it's hard to face the mirror, it takes a lot of moral strength and intestinal fortitude, two things that the slimy, controlling, authoritarian, power-obsessed globalist psychopaths don't have any of. Because if you have any of that stuff, you're not obsessed with power, you take no pleasure from controlling people. You take no pleasure from being above anybody. You know, I've been at my age, I've been in managerial roles and for the last sort of 5, 6 years of my career, and I really don't like it. I don't like it as much as being a dog's body because I don't like having to tell people what to do, discipline people. It's the only part of the sort of well-paid, upwardly mobile job that I dislike is having to discipline people because I don't like to have power over people because I'm not a fucking moral coward. A lot of people who like power do it because they look in the mirror and they don't like what they see, and they think maybe I'll feel better about myself if I just achieve some goal that allows me to have power over people. It's more wisdom you get off your parents, isn't it? My dad always said, "Oh yeah, only the school bullies always want to be coppers." It's not always true. There's some good cops, but there's bad ones, and they're the school bullies. They've got none of that, which is why they're obsessed with controlling better men. AOC could have no sway over me whatsoever, so she's desperate to do it. So she wants to be a politician. It's the oily, cowardly, manipulative way these politicians get through their lives because they're empty shells. It's why they all shag other women. Gavin Newsom's a famous fanny rat, and he was shafting his his own campaign manager's wife. You know, they do it because they're empty shells of people, got no moral fibre at all. And because of that, they couldn't bring themselves to face the mirror. When it was reported, and again, you all know that I don't lie to you. These are all demonstrable, verifiable facts. I'm not going to sit here looking for all of the numbers and boring you to satisfy the two pedants in the chat. I'm sure most of you already know this, but essentially, Trump won the White House by less than 100,000 votes. I may misquote the number, but I believe it was about 70,000. If there was an additional 70,000 votes in 3 swing states, Hillary Clinton would have been the president. So the reason they didn't win wasn't because of Russia. Oh, Russia. Yeah. No, 70,000 votes. You pissed off at least 2 million Sanders voters and independents when Debbie Wasserman Schultz kept a job through numerous scandals, through them leaking the questions to Hillary Clinton before she was going to debate Bernie Sanders during the Democratic primary process. And I'll tell you this, any lunatic who says this, because my mother-in-law said this to me when we were talking politics, said, "Oh, yeah, because I was pointing out that Bernie Sanders would have beat Donald Trump easily." And she said, no, moderate Democrats wouldn't have voted for Bernie Sanders. I'm like, are you kidding me? With Donald Trump, like she's got Trump derangement syndrome. I was like, would you vote for him? She was like, oh yeah, definitely vote for him. And she's like a boomer. I was like, the numbers were clear. And if you looked at the numbers, the polling for months before the election, Sanders was always the better choice to beat Trump because everyone despised Trump so much that all the moderate Democrats would have happily voted for him over Trump. They'd have gone, he's way more left-wing than I'd like to see, but he's better than Trump. So we'll just give him a go. So when they leaked the questions to Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders went, hang on, what's going on here? The fact that the Clinton campaign didn't just phone the police straight away and go, yeah, they've just leaked us the questions in what is an apparently democratic process. When they didn't do that, the nail was put in Hillary Clinton's campaign. And as I said, we can laugh at the commie Bernie bros, but that's a fact. Like, I don't know what number of them, but it's going to be in the millions. There were a ton of Bernie bros. And if there was only 1 million of them, scrub the votes because of what happened when it was Sanders versus Clinton, when it was rigged. It was rigged. Then Clinton would be the president easily by a landslide. I'd throw 500,000 extra votes in the pot for Sanders versus what Clinton got, and he'd won by a landslide. So essentially, they rigged it. They rigged the process poisoned their own well, and then because they didn't have the emotional fortitude to face the mirror and say it was our fault we lost, they went, it was the Russians. It wasn't. It wasn't. This globalist psychopaths blame everything on the Russians because they want us to have another fucking world war because they'll make loads of money off arms stocks, and they love that. That's why they want that to happen. But essentially, they did it to themselves, right? And they don't want to admit it because it's hard work facing the mirror and saying, yeah, it's our fault. We totally ballsed it all up. It was our fault. And the same thing's going to happen here, which is what I was talking with regards to Sadwings' comment there. Because there are so many better Democrat candidates that they could have picked. Centrist, reasonable Democrat candidates that were qualified. And they had to instantly discount all of them. Odin's late in. This is what we're talking about, Odin. They had to instantly discount all of them because Biden was told by the woke globalist commie psychopaths that you had to pick a woman, and preferably a woman of color. So he instantly went, knocked several hundred chess pieces off the board and was left with a pool of about 4. And he went, I guess we'll have to pick Camel Toe Kama Sutra Harris, who is famous for gobbling pensioners when she was in the 20s. Because if you don't know that, just to fill in the Englishman in the room, not going to be as filled in as Kamala has been for the last 20 years, but essentially she was gobbling a pensioner when she was in her 20s. Willie Brown, he was the mayor of San Francisco, and for favors to get pushed into these positions, she allowed him to push her into many different positions. And nobody in the 20s wants to shaft a bloke who's 67 or whatever he was. So she is every inch the grab your ankles, pole climbing, literally politician. They all say they can't climb the greasy pole to get into politics. Well, Kamala Sutra really did climb the greasy poles to get into politics. Oh, yeah. It's like a Finbar Saunders reference for you. She's basically, her kneecaps look like a fucking elephant's because they're so calloused, because she's been rogered from one end of the White House to the other. That's the only way she got into politics. Kamala could suck a golf ball through a 50-foot hose, right? She's got no talent. She's ignorant. She's stupid. I've personally made dozens of videos about her. She is genuinely a little bit dense. Like some of the stuff that she's said, some of the videos I made about her, it's unbelievable how stupid she is. She cackles maniacally all the time. She just doesn't know. I've made loads about her. When she faked that NASA video, when she did, what was the one I did? Word Salad Harris. Oh. Yeah. Yeah, let's have a look at this one. So this is one of my old videos. Word Salad Harris does it again. Listen to this. She's just a complete spastic, essentially. I heard this on Mark Stein's show on GB News today. Just listen to this.
Listen, guys. We're talking about the potential for war in Europe. Let's really take a moment to understand the significance of what we're talking about. It's been over 70 years. And through those 70 years, as I mentioned yesterday, there has been peace and security. We are talking about the real possibility of war in Europe. So our position is for us very clear, which is as a leader, which we have been bringing together the allies, working together around our collective and unified position, that we would all not just prefer, we desire, we believe it is in the best interest of all that there is a diplomatic end to this moment.
Right. Have you ever heard? Yeah, have you ever heard such drivel? She's like, come together, not just think about or like to or desire it, but, you know, think about it and desire it and come together. It's like you're just a complete, to use the Britishism, spacker. It's been a while since we've heard that on the airwaves, isn't it? I'll do it. Absolute spacker. Like, I can't believe that mouth breather got the vice presidential nomination. How have I got more ability to communicate effectively than the vice president? And this is what I keep going on about, how we've been so drastically failed, because we were better ran when 60 rich families ran the world. Because when it started falling to us, the working and the middle classes, we got the likes of Angela Rayner and Diane Abbott and David Lammy and Kamala gobbledygook word salad Harris. How am I a more effective communicator than Kamala Harris? She's the vice president. When I was a kid, I thought all these people would be like geniuses, like you would think in a country like America. You'd have a genius vice president, the best of the best of the best, and you didn't. You got a DEI hire, one of God's special people. Yeah, Joey Deacon. That's a good one. There was a Marine Deacon at 40 Commando, and everyone used to call him Joey. I think his real name was like Peter or something. Joey Deacon. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I can't believe a borough lad without a college education can communicate more effectively than the Vice President of the United States. That's how bad things have got. And I don't think that's me bigging myself up. I'm a normal, average IQ, average person from the Northeast, and I'm far better at communicating with people than Camel Toe Harris. So we are scraping the bottom of the barrel. So to get back to the point I was making, if they end up lumbered with Harris, because it's going to be a mad situation if they have to start. The vice president's whole point, really, is to step in when the president's incapacitated. If they're going to have to go back to the Thunderdome, as Sadwick says, get the pugil sticks out and fight it out this close to the election, because they can't just do what they're supposed to do and just default to the VP, it's their fault. It's their fault. So it was their fault in 2016, and it's their fault now. Because they picked Kamala Harris, they insisted to go with a diversity hire. They ignored the dozens of better candidates who were much more likable. And this is what you get. And if they lose again, they'll go, oh, it must have been the Russians. No, it was you. It was you. Look in the mirror if you want to blame someone for why you lost. Same with Debbie Wasserman Schultz. She's still there. The DNC is still rotten to the core. Yeah, she probably hummed the American national anthem with Sleepy Joe's balls in her mouth. Of course she did. Everyone knows that. It's a mad state of affairs. It's all their fault. All their fault. And this is very true, yeah. That's what's happened. The old left and right paradigm's gone. You've got patriots and you've got authoritarian globalist psychopaths, and I'm not doing it. I refuse to eat cricket paste and walk everywhere while Mitt Romney gets a private jet. Or what's it, John Kerry? He's meant to be the climate star, and he flies everywhere and he eats fillet steak. I'm not having it. I'm just not having it. I'd rather exist off rainwater and salted porridge, like a really poverty-stricken Scotsman. So it's a mad state of affairs. I really don't know what to say other than it's your fault, lads. If you wanna look at someone to blame, look at yourself. Easy, innit? Let's have a look. Elon's chirped up on Twitter. Joe's just dropped out. The Democratic elite, corporate media, and billionaire donors successfully pressured the candidate chosen by the Democratic primary voters to drop out because he's down in the polls and losing. Democrats destroy democracy in pursuit of power. Everything they do is just corruption. It's awful. And I mean, the Conservatives are no better. The neocons, the neoliberals, it's all gone. Right versus left, it's gone. It's patriots versus globalist psychopaths. And that's all that matters now. Half the Republican Party is scum. Lindsey Graham is a rat. These people are just awful. And that's exactly right. And the assassination attempt prove it. Because think about this. When they tried to kill Trumpy Bear, the Orange Oracle, right? When he saw the rounds coming using his gift of foresight and then blocked them with unholy warp energy, like Magnus the Red, right? It was mental because the tolerant, reasonable, all their words, not mine, tolerant, reasonable, middle of the road walk were celebrating it. And the Conservatives just don't do that, do they, in the same fashion? Like, if you want to say that you live in a civilized country, you don't just kill presidential candidates. The Americans croon about how they've got the best Secret Service in the world and they've got this great democracy. And yet everyone started celebrating when they thought the president was going to get murdered. It's terrible. So they've lost all pretense of the moral high ground, which I've, again, told you a lot about so many times over the last couple of years. You don't let them talk down to you because they're awful. They don't have the right to talk down to you. When they celebrate the murder of a man with a family because they don't like his politics, they don't get to talk down to you. People like Owen Jones love it when their political opponents get hurt. They can't talk down to a scaffolder or a bricklayer or a bus driver who spends most of his life just working and worrying about his family because they're not political ideologues. These people are lower than a rattlesnake's ball sack and they have no right to talk down to you. Whenever they do, you just laugh in the face. Just be, oh, yeah, really? You actually think you're more of a moral person than I am? A murderous, commie, gibberish spewing rat bag. It's lunacy. Yeah, that's a good quote. Sadwings is Salty Cracker's good. He's another disaffected liberal. I bet you 10 years ago he was voting Democrat. The old paradigm's gone. It's patriots versus globalist psychopaths right now. And if you care about free people, regardless of whether you're on the right or the left, there's only one choice in America. They want to keep a boot on your throat. They'll keep you entertained in your tiny little flat with your Gobbletron or your Clam Smasher, and they'll feed you cricket paste, and you won't be miserable, but you won't be free. And it's the principle of the matter. I want to be free. I don't want to sit in my little apartment getting noshed off by a robot. Well, I might do that for a weekend every now and then. but the rest of the time, I want to be free to do what I want to do out of principle of the matter. And these psychopaths, I've told you a lot as well, though, because I'm blackpilled. I don't see how we're getting out of it. I think that we've already lost and we just don't know it yet. Like, I don't see how we win when we're in such a minority. It's about 20-25% of the people who consume alternative media and aren't controlled entirely by CNN and MSNBC, but most people just do as they're told. You know what proves it the best is all the hoaxes about Trump. It's another one I was having out this weekend. Like, there's almost everything that is commonly believed about the Orange Oracle he didn't say. They're all lies. They're like them lies by omission that I told you about, the famous one where they had that BLM woman going, don't smash everything up. Don't smash everything up around here. We need our weave shops. Go to the white areas and smash all their shit up. Go do that, yeah. And then they just clip the second half of it. And then she does the first half and says, oh, don't smash their things up. And then it cuts to the studio and they go, a wonderful praying for peace there from the BLM members. It's like, it is a flagrant lie. A lie by omission is just a lie. It's a lie just the same. And almost everything that's ever been said and believed by the vast majority of people with Trump is an outright lie. He didn't say very fine people. At the start of the sentence, he specifically said, of course, I am not talking about white nationalists and KKK. But there was very fine people on both sides there trying to be a unifier. He was saying specifically, if you get rid of the commies and the woke and the KKK and the hardcore white nationalists, then you've got very fine people there on both sides. And they just clipped the first half of the sentence. And now 150 million Americans think Trumpy Bear is pro KKK. It's mental, but most people believe it. So how do we get a win? As I've told you, I just think it keeps getting really, really bad until it gets awful, and then it gets better. But we're not going to do prevention. We're going to do cure like we always do because we're stupid. Yeah, even that is weird, isn't it? I have to say that is kind of weird. That's what I mean. So, like, loads of the Trump ones have gone way too far into the Trump cult because I joke about Trumpy Bear and the Orange Oracle. I just think he's all right. I don't worship the bloke. I definitely wouldn't put on a maxi pad on my ear. And then 50% of humanity just gets all the news off the BBC and CNN. So I just think we're Tommy ducked until it gets intolerable. The general public won't switch on until things get awful. So it is what it is, isn't it? What you're going to do? So Joe's dropped out. That's brilliant. Oh, there he is. Anthony Kirkwood's got here eventually. Nice one. So what else is good? I'll do a couple more from my feed if I can find it. Here we are. What else have we got? Oh, yeah, this is a good one. This is a good one. So let's talk about this. Right. So a lot of the Labour Party, being authoritarian globalist psychopaths, have started talking about making the state pension means tested, which means, well, it's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. And it's just more theft. But it'll encourage the worst aspect of everyone. Because people like me who live frugal lives, save our money, do so because we want to invest for the future. I live a Spartan lifestyle. I don't drink too much. I don't eat too much. I don't go out to restaurants very often. I don't buy nice jewelry or clothes or cars. I put my money away. I invest it. And it's because I'm lucky enough to have that highly conscientious personality type. And those people are the ones who keep the world running. You know, it allows the banks to have the funds in there that they use and the governments to do it. If you start means testing pensioners, they'll keep it well low down and they'll just rob people like us. And stubborn people like us will be driven into poverty even if you've got money, because if they put some cap in, like, oh yeah, if you've got 20 grand in the bank, you don't get your pension. Well, then you're just going to encourage all the worst habits of humans, aren't you? No one's going to save for tomorrow. This type of stuff is when your society's circling the drain. When you encourage people to not plant trees whose shade they'll ever sit in. When you encourage people, you might as well spend all your money. No point keeping it for tomorrow. You're just getting people. It's encouraging the worst aspects of human nature, which is live in the moment. It is, isn't it? It's, even if you want to have a strong marriage, it's built on that. If you've got a good partnership, you're willing to forego short-term pleasure with some yo-yo knickered barmaid because you're looking to the future. You're like, no, I've signed up for something here that's important. All the commies do is encourage awful behavior from people. Live in the moment. If you think you're going to get blew up tomorrow, you might as well scut the barmaid. Might as well. We're only here for another 24 hours. Might as well piss all my money up the wall, use it all on drugs, get pissed up, shag the slappers. It's an unbelievably stupid thing to do. So as I use my favourite fall guy, Mr. Philpott. Like, I'm a big fan of old Big Mick. If you paying for decades and you're frugal and invest, all the commies steal your money off you, and then they'll give it to bone-idle immigrants and Mick Philpott, so he can buy the petrol and the matches. Yeah, very moral. Not only are you buying Mick Philpott special brew and tabs for 25 years, you are paying for the petrol and the matches as well. Don't forget that. Don't forget that little detail. Oh, Rotten Politics is in now then. Oh, you're doing all right, mate. Hope all's well in Rotten Politics land. Where are you from, Rotten Politics? You by your accent like Manchester, right? Sound like a mank. Yeah, Manchalabad. I've already discussed this. I went out with a lass from Manchalabad for about a year. It was awful. Going up there on a weekend, it was awful. Awful. I got off the train once when walking around the Arndale Centre. Basically had a flashback. I thought it was back in Helmand province. It was shocking. Joe got me a super sticker. I told you I can't see them super stickers, Joe, but thanks for that, whatever it says. I think you have to be on YouTube to see them. Bob Hunter, inflation is the silent tax. Governments are fake. Yeah, well, we all know that. It is the silent tax. They just screw you. They just totally knack you. And they're robbing you. So that's the final. That's the final one, isn't it? They're going to rob your pension. You're paying it all life and they just have it off you. No, we need this to give to the bloke who robbed the boat on Captain Phillips. Cheers then. You paid in for 42 years, but we're using this to buy, I don't know, halal lamb for 20 blokes who are going to cook them on upside down shopping trolleys in a council house that you're paying for. Brilliant. So I'll just live in the moment, and we'll turn our society into a total sewer. Brilliant idea. The good bit. There's no good bit in Manchester. The good bit. What, you mean that one street in Prestwich? Right, we'll do one more. That is awful, that though. Unbelievable stupidity. Short-sighted stupidity from a communist. Who would have thought it? Yeah, well, this is proof that I'm talking about, where you've just got this one world government now. Labour is doing raids on car washes and nail bars and that. It's like, how come the Tories weren't doing that when that was what they were supposed to be doing the whole time? That's a bit weird. That one's hilarious, but I think YouTube will throw me off the platform, so I can't show you that. If you haven't checked out my Twitter page, scroll about 5 or 6 posts down and click on that one, because that's hilarious. That pensioner getting his phone robbed. And then there's another good one. Posey Parker, we all know, during a live stream, the doctor's surgery called up to tell her she's been removed as a patient because she had misgendered a receptionist. Imagine that. Imagine that. Imagine paying into the system for 40 years and then you rock up at the doctor's and they go, we don't like your political opinion, so unlucky. It's just mental. And the woke don't see any problem with this. Cultural enrichments, thank you, Mafia Party. From Bob Chismate and Louise Owen, have I missed the Leeds riot? I didn't really cover it, to be honest. The reason I haven't touched that one is because I've heard differing reports. There's a large amount of them saying that it's obviously Alan's lads, and there's a large number of them saying that tons of Roma are involved as well. I mean, obviously they're all foreign. None of them are called Alan Smith, are they? But I don't know the ins and outs because I was on holiday for a week and I was drinking the whole time. So I don't fully know. But just to talk about this last one before I sign off, this reminds me of the time when I was getting attacked by the lefties on Twitter when I said, at the end of the day, the NHS is a failure. And I jokingly said, like, if it worked, I'd go home and use it. If it actually worked as intended and I needed something done, I'd jump on a plane and go over. I was like, why not, eh? Or you'll pay for everybody else to use it. Might as well let me have a go, surely. And they all went, oh, ho, ho, thinking it's a gotcha. Like, oh, look at this. He's not even living here anymore, and he wants to be a parasite on our NHS. And I was like, what? So 20 generations of my family paid into the system, and I was paid into the system from the age of 16 to 36 or whatever age I was when I moved. And I'm a parasite if I possibly use it in a hypothetical manner. But if 50,000 Bangladeshi men with terrorist sympathies sneak over in the back of a tomato wagon, groom kids above a kebab shop, and then use it, they're totally fine. And they aren't a parasite. I mean, could you make that up? What's that? Answer blowing in name. What did blowing in name say? Hang on. Let me have a look. I'll look. I go where the money forces me, right? That's what people pay for. Blowing in name. Can't see him. You'll have to repeat his question in the chat. No, what was the question? Anyway, type it in again. And this is the same thing. Posey Parker, whatever you think of her, she's a citizen from a descendant of citizen, from a descendant of a citizen, and she's paid in for decades, and her husband's paid in for decades, and that's her right. She's paid for it. That's what I'm talking about. It's authoritarian commie gibberish. You can't link healthcare treatment to your political opinions. If you think you can, you're a lunatic. You're like a full-blown evil Orwellian-esque movie villain. Like, sorry, you might have paid into the system for 40 years, but because you disagree with me, we let you die. You can't advocate that stuff and tell me that you're a moral person. Do you see what I'm saying? If she was unlucky enough to get breast cancer and she needs treatment and the woke left just do Nelson, you're not just immoral, you're just evil. And they try and talk down to people like us. They would laugh if the president was murdered. They would laugh if Posey Parker was to be given a terminal illness. They'd love it. And they still think they can talk down to scaffolders and bricklayers and plumbers. They're just awful. They're just awful. So don't ever allow them to talk down to you. Like I keep telling you, you are better than them. And yes, we can end with that's a good one. The best revenge is to not be like your enemy. Yeah, you're better than them. You're more moral than them. You're harder working than them. You've got more of a stiff upper lip than them. You're just better. And you don't let them talk down to you. And I never do. And you shouldn't either. And the last 2 weeks especially has proved me right. Terrible people. Don't let them talk down to you. Defend yourself as aggressively and vociferously as you can, because they are the villains. If this was a movie, you'd be Frodo Baggins and they would be Sauron. That's where we are now. The Patriots are the good guys, the globalists are the psychopaths, and we're in an existential crisis. So that's just the way it is. Anyway, that was nearly an hour. We'll call it there. I've got shit to do. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. It's been a while. I'll make a video tonight as well. I think if I get the chance, I've got some work I have to catch up on and all sorts of other stuff. But yeah, I'll try and get a video done. Okay, lefty tosser. Still a lefty tosser. Like a man can't change his mind, eh? I've made that point to a few lefties. It's not flip-flopping if it's sincere, is it? That's the big difference. When Keir Starmer flip-flops every week, that's a flip-flop. If over an 8-year period you go from one guy to another, as indeed JD Vance did, not really a flip-flop, is it? You've just got an open mind and you're willing to change it because you're not a lunatic. Anyway, all right. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. See you all very soon. And I'll talk to you tomorrow, probably. All right. Cheers. Toodle pip.